Everyone's a fan of Zeke von Genbu, and I'm sure plenty of people already know that he's a reference to a previous character from Xenogears, but I very recently noticed something even funnier that ties the two of them together, so I'm just gonna talk about it here. I am gonna have to spoil Xenoblade 2 up through the end of Chapter 6, but I will walk around the actual plot details going on when I talk about the Gears stuff, but I will explain certain events that happen without saying the context around getting to that point. And I don't really go any further than 20 hours into a 60+ hour game, so there shouldn't be too much Gears spoilers. It's probably okay to watch this without having played it. Much of Zeke's character is a direct reference to Bartholomew Fatima from Xenogears. Like Zeke, Bart is a prince who wears an eye patch. He's also exiled, although the circumstances are completely different from Zeke, and he has a very similar personality. Zeke is just a few years older, so while he is a bit more of a mentor type to Rex, who is also younger than the main character of Gears, Bart is basically the comic relief sidekick who has enough going for himself where he can take control of parts of the story and have his own major arc. The interesting thing I noticed that they both do is completely waste their ultimate attack a bunch of times. It is a bit debatable for Bart because he doesn't just fight on foot, he has his own personal mech, and then he's also a pirate captain with his own ship and crew, and a lot of them have mechs, but I'm pretty sure, at least for the time of the story that we care about, his most powerful asset that can do damage is the cannons on his ship, the Yggdrasil, named after the Norse world tree, so there's another neat little connection thing there. And quite frankly, they prove completely useless throughout most of the game. In fact, the two biggest times Bart uses his ship's weapons, they are to blow up his allies. Now granted, the first time there weren't allies yet. Main character Faye and his mentor Satan were trapped on an enemy vessel and Bart just happened to attack that as a pirate thing, but he almost caused Faye to lose his mech to quicksand, and basically Faye and Bart weren't on the best of terms until they were forced to go through a dungeon together, so I'd say this still counts as an unfortunate introduction to your future best friend. A bit later on in the story, Faye and Satan are separated again from Bart, who stays with the ship, and they end up in enemy territory and commandeer an airplane that the enemy was building and use it to try and fly back to friendly territory. However, Bart doesn't know any of this plan because he's not in contact with them, and when he sees a giant enemy plane flying towards him, he uses his now upgraded ship's weapons, including the wonderfully named Bart missiles, to shoot it down, causing Faye and one of the other characters to come completely separate and get stranded at sea for a bit, and the other himbo that joined the party while Bart wasn't around, Rico, to get very angry and beat Bart up. There's also one time where they do attempt to use the Yggdrasil against a majorly powerful enemy mech, and it is also completely useless. I'm kind of skirting around that one because it's a bit of a bigger spoiler. So basically, Bart has this extremely powerful ship. It has all these super cannons and stuff. If you read about it in the art book, it explains all the different weapons it has on it, and the only times it actually successfully damages something are blowing up Faye. Now, you can, later on in the story, get the Yggdrasil using an attack as an actual ability Bart can call on in combat, but it's not necessarily the best option he has for attacking. It's only usable in mech fights, all sorts of that stuff, so it's not really that useful in the long run. Now, you may rightly be asking where I'm going with this, because Zeke doesn't have a ship, he doesn't have a mech, his only real ally is Pandora and he's working for Amalthus, but that's about it. So where is this ultimate attack that keeps backfiring on him? Well, the big deal about Zeke's ultimate attack backfiring is that it doesn't work on the main character, because the whole Bart story brings to mind the amount of times Ultimate Lightning Fury Slash is actually used in the main story. He only tries it 4 times. The first 2 are the first 2 fights against Rex and the party, where he screws himself over with his bad luck and trying to use the attack causes nature to say no and remove him from the battlefield. The 3rd time is the only time he actually hits anybody with it, but that is just to take out a set of 4 completely fodder Tantalese knights. Basically all he did was expedite the rest of the party getting through that area. There's no way they would have lost in the first place, so it's no real show of his abilities. The only time it looks like he's about to do something cool with it is at the end of Chapter 6, when he's going to use it to knock out 3 members of Torna at once. And then of course Jin shows up and is like, no, you don't get to do cool things, and stabs him. Obviously he's still given the cool feat of being the only one to avoid getting lethally hurt by that speed blitz from Jin, but he still never gets to use his attack that literally has ultimate in the name of it. Obviously, Blade specials are canon to the main story because you see several characters use them, but that seems to be, in canon, his most powerful driver art, and he's just not allowed to actually hit anybody with it outside of gameplay. So I just thought that was kind of funny. There's absolutely no point to the video. I just think it's cool how, oh, Bart's ultimate strongest attack always fails, but that's because he hits his allies most of the time. And then Zeke's ultimate strongest attack mostly fails. He gets to use it once, but both of them get stopped by a villain the one time it looks like they're about to do something cool. And then the other 2 times they use it besides Zeke's one is when they're trying to attack their ally. Bart does it by accident, Zeke does it on purpose, he just completely fails. So I think that's a really funny way they inverted some of Bart's stuff.